Hey everyone, we're back here at Auckland City Honda to test ride the NX500.
I need to go fast, oh so fast, faster than the rest, I need to go fast, oh so fast, fast like lightning, oh yeah.
Well, feels not too good.
Hey, and welcome to Biking with Campbell. So today we are testing the NX500, and I'd like to do a big shout out and thanks to Auckland City Honda for lending me the motorcycle. But as usual, this is not a sponsored review. All opinions are my own, based on my own personal biases. And I'm going to start off with my raw impressions of the motorcycle as I ride it. And then I am going to do the good, the bad, and the ugly treatment at the end. I'll put chapters in. Anyway, let's go for a ride.
Test 1 2 1 2 1 2. So we're back on the Sony X3000, just because I want to run the Osmo action on the back of the bike. Hopefully get a better view from the back than I did with the other way around. Okay, first off, it's nice and easy to get your feet down, which is good. Yeah, I can actually just flat foot it in my enduro boots, and I am 5'10" with a 32-inch inseam. Now there's a lot of slop in this cable, unfortunately, but I'll probably get used to that. The other issue I'm going to have is I don't think I can get my boot properly under this gear shifter, so that might be interesting. But anyway, let's give it a go, see what happens. Standing position, man, it feels I feel like I'm standing tall on the pegs, but yeah, nice and balanced as it turned around. Yeah, that's pretty easy. Probably not going to be able to change gears standing, or might not even be able to change gears sitting, so we'll see. So obviously there's not an issue on my Africa Twin, because obviously on the Africa Twin I've got the gear shifter set up, obviously for A, standing, but B, oh dear, being in these big clunky boots. It's really hard to rev match when you're downshifting with this much play in the throttle. Now that's not a problem if you're thinking of getting one of these, because fortunately it's not ride by wire, it's got a cable throttle, so you just adjust the play out. Some people like a little bit of slop in the throttle. I don't, but means you can just adjust it to how you like. I usually adjust out absolutely all of the slack, so the second you turn the throttle you're getting, power. What am I doing? 56 and fourth. Yeah, very smooth motor, very neutral handling. Yeah, pretty much exactly what you would want from a user-friendly bike. Let's have a look at the standing position again. There's not much room to get your feet back. It's a little bit tricky, and as per your normal, these enduro boots are exactly the wrong height, so they catch on the plastics in the bottom of the seat. It's a bit of a hassle with my Africa Twin. I've actually smashed a bunch of plastics because the boots have hooked up on the plastics on the bike, and as it's tipped over it's just hooked on them and smashed them. How many Ks has this bike got on it? Where's the odometer? Oh, unfortunately we've switched off the odometer, so I've literally got no clue how many Ks it's got on it. Not many is I think the answer. Has had a couple of test rides apparently. It's probably not quite run in, so I'll probably not beat it to death. But I am going to test it quite hard, see how it corners, see how the brakes work, and we'll see what it's like on a gravel road when the going gets bumpy. Let's see how it lugs. So there's 6, 42. Yeah, it's a little luggy, a little bit boomy, juddery. But yeah, as long as you just give it a whisper of throttle, it'll accelerate out of there. Let's try that again in 5th from 40. Oh yeah, 5th's doable from 40 k's. From 40 k's, probably a bit mean expecting it to lug from 40 and 6, but unreasonable. Cool. So far I'm reasonably impressed with the suspension. Is relatively firm but comfortable, so it feels like at this point for just around town it's reasonably well damped. The front end does not dive overly under brakes, and so far the brakes are pretty good. Like, you get good braking with minimal effort, and that's two-finger braking. Starting to get the hang of getting my boot under this lever, but if you're in ordinary riding boots and you're not in effectively enduro boots, you're not going to have that issue. But also too, you just adjust the levers to suit, so that's not a problem. Oh, that's nice, little bit of pull and forth. Is that from about 3,000 RPM? Yeah, just over probably 3,500 RPM. You got a nice little bit of thrust there. Let's see what it's like at motorway speeds. What's it like in 6? Oh yeah, still a bit of acceleration. Only halfway through the rev range here. Yeah, so it's going to sit on the motorway pretty good. Let's see, I'm not quite at 100 k's. Let's see, 100 k's is just under 5,000 RPM, and red line starts at about 8.5. If you're wondering where we're going, we're heading through to Whatapu, because there's some nice windy roads. It's scenic, and there's some good gravel roads at the end that are pretty chewed out. It'll give us a very good idea about the suspension on this bike and whether it's really suitable for aggressive gravel roading. So yeah, this steers quite quickly, but it does have a 19-inch front wheel, so I guess you'd kind of expect that. Bikes are handling so much better now with the 21s than they used to. But yeah, I was always very impressed with how my V-Strom Thou handled with its 19-inch rim. I did all sorts of things on that. I raced it and rode it up 90 Mile Beach, and yeah, that was pretty much good for anything. Why oh why a bike with 40 horsepower has traction control is absolutely baffling. It's a bit of a wasted opportunity. You've got this switch here, Honda, that you put there so people can turn the traction control off, but what you really want to be turning off is the ABS, both ends, which is about bloody time the manufacturers started doing that. We've been saying it for years and years and years and years, and do you think they'll listen? Nah. CF Moto's probably come the closest with their nice switch, simple switch for turning the ABS off, except that only switches the rear ABS off. It's kind of a bit daft. Absolutely daft. Let's see if we can just cruise along. Just chilling. Not chopping up and down through the box. Nice good feel from the brakes there. Two-finger braking, just a little bit. Trailing it as I go into the corner, very gently with gently with two fingers. Oversteered there. Probably used to my Africa Twin turning a little bit slower than that. A little bit of recalibration of the brain, as it were. Yeah, rolls into corners beautifully. Very neutral handling. I'm a big fan of that, a huge fan of neutral handling bikes. Having super fast steering and bikes that only really like to be upright or on the very edge of their tyre makes zero sense on the road, because you don't ride like that unless you knew the road perfectly, and then even then you'd be a mug to be just fully committing to chucking the thing on its side, because you just, even on a road you never know what's around the corner, ever. You know, you can always make a slow steering bike steer quickly by putting more effort into it, but you can't improve the handling of a bike that's just designed to basically be a track bike. Yeah, so it's happy to just cruise along here. I mean, I feel comfortable just, you know, having a chat to you guys, talking about all sorts of stuff. It's not, you know, requiring huge amounts of attention from me. You know, I'm paying attention to the road, but you know, it's not that, you know, narrow focus you get when, you know, you're riding something that requires a truckload of attention. Okay, I hope we're going to get okay sound on this video today. It's pretty windy. I have this issue every time I do a test. It's like just blustery. Speaking of wind, there's no buffeting coming off the windscreen as far as, you know, like forwards. It's just, you know, I'm getting hit from the side. So yeah, the windscreen's working pretty good for my 5'10". We're just gonna cruise down here, enjoy a bit of scenery, and then we're gonna pick up the pace and see what this goes like when you're pushing on a little bit, and then it'll be time to hit the gravel road. The brakes on this thing are sensational. Heaps of power, truckloads of feel, like really good feel at the lever. And the ABS feels good too. I didn't get any pulsing through. Even the rear brake I didn't get any pulsing through. So either these tyres will stick like glue, or the ABS is incredibly subtle, or it just doesn't, you know, kick in ridiculously early like doesn't some bike. I'll show you what I mean. I'll just I'll go along here and I'll do a bit of a hard brake. Okay, so that's 80. It just pulls up. It just pulls up real fast, and you can kind of, you know, you're still getting good feel off the front end. You can tell what's going on. I was going to say, you know, you could tell when it's going to lock up, except it isn't going to lock up because you've got ABS. ABS, which is not super irritating, which is good, because a lot of ABS annoys the heck out of me, plus compromises the whole feel of the braking system. I've ridden very few modern bikes that have ABS where the brakes have actually been any good, you know, not like, you know, nice to use, like good feel and what have you, not a bunch of sponginess at the lever. Like, there's no sponginess on this lever. It's maybe a tiny bit, but it doesn't feel like sponginess. It feels like you're into brakes immediately. So they've got good bite and good feel, but if you're a new rider, you shouldn't be worried, you know. It shouldn't be like, oh no, that's going to have bitey, you know, grabby bitey brake. It doesn't, you know, like it's really easy to be very smooth on the brake, even if you had a little bit of a panic. So yeah, like there I just, you know, grabbed a little bit of a handful, and nothing scary happened, you know, like it just decelerated a bit, and then if I'd wanted to brake harder, I would have just, you know, needed to squeeze the lever a bit more. And the rear brake feels pretty good too. Yeah, it's not doing anything too weird. Here's a bit of scenery for you guys. Oh, pretty scenery. And I think, you know, that's in many ways what this bike's made to do, you know, commute and tour and just be easy so you can enjoy the scenery, you know. And you know, that's not the type of riding I normally do, but I have to say it's very enjoyable. It's got a nice enjoyable vibe to this. Okay, so we are coming up on, it's a cute little ford here, and then we're going to get into the gravel. There's a little bit of a windy tar seal road here, very tight, very windy. some of it's got, you know, it's fairly busted up tar seal actually. Let me just check this rear camera, it's pointing in roughly the right direction. It is. Now this has got, the tyres on this are slightly better than touring tyres. I think probably they're 70-30s, 70% road, 30% off-road. But yeah, when I get into the gravel, I'm going to need to be at least a bit sensible because, wow, this is really cool. Yeah, I like this motor. I think it's really good. It's not a bike you need to rev out, eh? Like it's quite happy to, it's just pulling everywhere, you know, but without being so linear as to be kind of, you know, too boring. Here's some clay. Can I stand? Let's get another gear so I'm not revving it quite that hard. Okay, I think I got the back to do a little bit of a skid there. You know, it's only got 40 horse, so it ain't going to do big skids. Oh, here's some corrugations. Yeah, it's fine over the corrugations in this rough ground. Whee! Okay, now I'm lugging in third, it's like just under 30 there for a second. Yeah, a little bit of a slide there. But I don't know if that's sliding under power or whether it's just sliding because I'm leaning it over and the tyres are not, you know, designed to do too much more than this. Oh, let's see what the ABS is like here. Bloody good. Now what we need is some loose gravel to try that on. So we'll find a bit of loose gravel and try that again. There is bits of loose gravel here. What about here? Just here. Yeah, bloody good. Not that I was going super fast, but yeah, the brakes are really good. Okay, I'm very impressed with the ABS. You heard it here first, everybody. This is the first ABS that I've ever really been impressed with. Actually, the Touareg had really good ABS. Arguably a bit more intrusive than this. But it was a bit more sophisticated, well, a lot more sophisticated, like, you know, you could really dial it in exactly how you wanted, you know, from, you know, really unintrusive to completely off as well. So I was grizzling before, I was going, oh, you know, sucks that you can't switch the ABS off, but it's good enough that you're probably not going to want to. It's like not really an issue. Like I'm not going, oh no, it's interfering, it's ruining the ride. Now obviously this is reasonably grippy, this surface. You know, like it's not like it's loose gravel or, you know, slippery mud or anything like that. And so this may, you know, struggle a bit more in those kind of conditions. But yeah, it would be interesting to know. But yeah, it's pretty nice to ride. Throttle, I was going to, yeah, throttle feels a little on-offy, but because there's so much slop in the cable at the moment, I can't. It's really hard to tell, like whether that's the case or whether I'm just, you know, rolling so far off and then rolling back on and kind of sort of jarring it through the beginning instead of sort of winding it on from close. If you know what I mean. It's probably not a very good way of explaining it. It's interesting, eh? Like, I think my expectations of expensive bikes might be just too high. Because you ride these sort of budget end things and I'm just blown away by how cool they are. And how much of the stuff works on them, to a very high level, you know. Whereas I ride a more expensive bike and they're just disappointing, you know, like they're just so disappointing. I mean, it's nice to have a whole bunch of extra power for sure. I mean, I definitely like one more powerful bike, but I'm getting to the point now where I think actually my Africa Twin's got enough that when I'm pushing on, it's, you know, it's exciting enough. Old man now, I'm getting old man. Anyway, I think that's just about going to wrap it up. What have I talked about? Let me see. Talked about the brakes endlessly. This is going to be a bitch to like cut together. I've talked about the brakes. I haven't really talked about the comfort. So now that's probably a good thing actually. I haven't really talked about the comfort because it's comfortable and I haven't thought about it. Seat feels really good. Really good. Now I realise this is only a short ride, but you know, my backside's not even beginning to like feel sore. The transition from sitting to standing is actually pretty good now. That first moment in the car park I was like, oh, these pegs are really high. If you're quite tall, you're going to want to put bar risers on this, especially considering if you're going to buy a bike like this, my guess is that you're not going to be someone who's, you know, charging hard and riding really aggressively. So having those bars a bit higher and maybe a little further forward would just give you a lot of like comfortable standing room when you're just sort of cruising in a standing position. You know, maybe after you've been in the saddle for ages and you want to stretch your legs a little bit, and you want to see. Look how easy this is to turn in circles. And it's just like I'm on full lock now. Yeah, I'm on full lock on a bike I don't know, and it's just so easy to get around. How slow can I go on this and still not have to put a foot down? 3Ks. So the balance is great. So if you were doing sort of easy technical stuff, but tight stuff, yeah, you could do that. Very cool. So yeah, standing's good, but maybe higher bars if you... I mean, this ironically, this is quite an aggressive position to be in on a bike that's probably not designed to be super aggressive. You can probably tell from how far my head's pointed down.
Hey, and welcome back to the studio for the good, the bad, and the ugly. So let's talk about one of the things I didn't mention much in my ride review, which is what it looks like. My first impressions of it, just sort of looking at it and going around the bike. The bike is quite a handsome bike, I think. I think the looks are a bit of an upgrade on the old CB500X. Although, having said that, although I wasn't a huge fan of the CB initially, over time I've grown to like it, and it's also come out in a series of really nice colour schemes and graphic looks. So that's for what it's worth. You'll have your preference. You'll know whether you like the look of the bike or not. It's all very personal. Apart from that, there's been some simple upgrades. Got a TFT screen now, Showa suspension, Nissan brakes. The NX500 comes in 3 colours. I think it's red, green and black, but I'll put pictures of them here, here and here with the names of the colours on. Fit and finish are typically Honda good. If you want a full list of the specs, here they are here. Let's get into the good, the bad and the ugly. First off, the good. Standout features for me were specifically the brakes and the ABS. The engine's a cracker, the suspension's great, and the chassis works exceptionally well. There's also good weather protection. Wow, so that is a lot of good. Let's break it down. The brakes have excellent feel, especially combined with the excellent front end on it and the suspension that provides plenty of feedback. They also have good power, plenty of power if you're an expert, but not so much that it's going to freak you out if you're a beginner. The ABS is not intrusive at all. On dry tar seal, I don't think I ever managed to get it to engage. On the sticky gravel roads that I was riding on, even with hard brakes. Once again, there was no real noticeable engagement from the ABS. And even in some deepish, loose gravel on the side of the road, even though it did kick in a little bit, I still felt like it was giving me really good stopping power. So absolutely no complaints with the ABS, which is pretty much a miracle. If you've watched any of my other videos, you know my feelings about ABS. Now, how that ABS will fare in very slippery, wet or muddy conditions, I've no idea. I didn't get to test it in that scenario. And it's one of those situations where I really wish that that button that they'd provided for us on the switchgear turned off the ABS completely and not just the TC. The engine. Now, it's not a super powerful motor, obviously. It's making, I think, approximately 47, 48 horsepower, some reasonably good torque, but it's definitely plenty for one up touring, maybe one up touring with a bit of luggage. If you absolutely had to, I'm sure you could manage 2 up. But I don't really think this is the ideal motorcycle for 2 up touring. On a twisty road, there's plenty there to be at least a little bit entertaining. There's good punchy mid-range that provides a little bit of that excitement that we all kind of want from our motorcycles. At motorway speeds, the engine's plenty powerful enough for that. I'm sure you could cruise at 100 to 110 kilometers all day long, and there's even a little bit where you could just, in 6, you could just wind it on for a slow overtake on the motorway. That Honda 500 is a very well liked motor. Honda use it in a lot of their different motorcycles, and I can see why people like it. The suspension, it's really well damped. It provides a very comfortable ride. Although it doesn't have a super huge amount of travel, even on the very bumpy gravel road that I rode it over the corrugations and through some of those unexpected potholes, it performed excellently at the speeds that I was riding at. There was no sense that it was going to bottom out or anything like that. I think the spring rate is fine. It was, I thought, more than good enough for my 100 kilos. So I found the NX500. I thought the suspension was bang on, really. I think the chassis is really well designed. It provides this nice balance between quick steering, but it's very neutral on the tyre all the way over to the edge. And at speed, it's also very stable. In fact, it's a very stable chassis, full stop. The other thing with the overall balance of the motorcycle is it's just super well balanced. It's really fun for doing, like, you know, very, very tight turns, and you're going to have no trouble, whether expert or beginner, of doing, you know, U-tubes. It's going to make that really easy. U-turns. I also found that, like, at crawling speeds, it was just, yeah, it was very, very easy to balance the bike and not feel that I was going to have to dab a foot down. That might be good in, I want to say, technical sort of conditions, but you're never really going to be riding this off-road in very tight, twisty conditions. Lastly, the bodywork provides good weather protection, and I didn't notice any buffeting coming off the windscreen, so I think the weather protection is going to be quite good for a bike like this. Okay, so now it's time for the bad. So, there's not really a lot to talk about with the bad, and I'm really just nitpicking here. So let's talk about a couple of those things that irked me just a little. Now, I personally like low flat bars, and the Honda NX500 has that kind of riding position that I typically like, which is going to be good when you're sitting, so it's well set up for a sitting position for my 5'10" anyway. However, I just thought when you stand up, that riding position is actually quite aggressive. It puts you quite far forward, but I think for a lot of people it's not going to make that much sense, and normally I would never suggest putting bar risers on any motorcycle, but I think for a lot of people you're going to want to put bar risers on these, because I think on this kind of motorcycle for the type of riding that you are almost certainly going to be doing, you are probably going to benefit from just a bit more height, so you can just sort of stand comfortably because you're kind of cruising for periods of time standing. The other reason that would be better if it was a bit more comfortable standing is I did find the seat very uncomfortable. Now on the ride review I was sort of talked about, oh, you know, it's good, and I hadn't really noticed it, but ironically on my way back to the shop my backside got really sore. Seats are a very personal thing, and one person who likes a seat on a bike and thinks it's good, someone else might not, but ultimately it didn't work for me. Another little thing, if I was being very, very nitpicky, is, you know, the suspension travel, there could be a little more suspension travel. It could have a bit more, you know, ground clearance. But for the kinds of things that 99.9% of people are going to do on this bike, for what it's actually designed to do, I think that is more than enough. As I said previously, I didn't find the suspension struggling or, you know, blowing through the stroke or anything like that. And of course, one of the benefits of having suspension that's not quite so tall is obviously it's a shorter reach to the ground, and you don't get that sort of pitching that you do on, you know, bikes with long suspension and sort of, you know, soft sort of travel where you're kind of pitching from one side to the other, where it's diving under the brakes. It doesn't really do any of that stuff. So now for the ugly. Has to be the traction control. Why a bike with this little horsepower has traction control is beyond me, unless you're taking it ice skating. Traction control has no place on a motorcycle making 40 horsepower. In fact, traction control has no place on a bike making 120 horsepower. You just don't need it. It's really stupid, especially on a 40 horsepower motorcycle. The other thing is I found the traction control, when you were being very aggressive with the throttle, to be very, very intrusive. A couple of times I tried to do a fast pull away from the lights, and I didn't realize it was switched on, and it just kicked in hard, like really hard, so hard that it felt like I'd snapped the chain. It's not at all subtle when it kicks in. Yeah, I wasn't very impressed with that. It's very unpleasant. The other thing is, it's a little bit confusing as to whether it's on or off. I never quite figured it out. So you would push the button and the little lights would come on, and then if you pushed and held the button down, a TC light with a line through it came on, meaning it was off, and if you pushed on it again, then it would just switch to the other light that just had TC on it, meaning it was on. But the thing is those lights don't stay on, they go off. So unless you can remember what you put it in, you're not sure. And the other thing is like all modern bikes, is if you switch the bike off, it just defaults to the traction control being on. I thought that was really frustrating. So what are my overall thoughts on the NX500? Well, it's a charming, cruisy, capable and complete motorcycle that clearly shows that Honda has been making motorcycles for a really long time, and they know how to put together a motorcycle that really works. As well as that, obviously, they have been developing this bike now for years and years and years, because it is really just a continuation of that CB500X development. And the CB500X is a very popular motorcycle that people have really liked. And I think if you are one of those people, you're probably just going to like this bike even more. What's it designed for? This bike is designed for beginners or experienced motorcycles wanting to downsize for one reason or another. It is suitable for commuting, it's suitable for touring, as I said, probably one up. It is suitable for, you know, having a bit of fun on a twisty road. It is suitable for gravel road riding and some light adventure. The NX500 encourages you to slow down and just enjoy the scenery, which is a pretty hard thing to get me to do, but the NX500 did manage to get me to do that. In fact, I found it quite hard to ride it fast, and it's not because it's not capable of going quickly and that it's not a really well put together package. It's just, you just find yourself constantly kind of slowing down and feeling chatty and kind of, you know, feeling immersed in the environment. It's a nice little bike. It fits in really well in alongside bikes like the Suzuki V-Strom 650 and the Moto Morini X-Cape 650. It's a little bit different to bikes like the Himalayan 450 or the CF Moto 450 MT. Those bikes are a little more off-road focused, and they're going to be able to take you a little further into slightly more uncomfortable terrain. If you want to see what they're really capable of, those two bikes, check out Mad TV's comparo between the two when they went out into the bush and did what I would have considered to be, you know, quite hard enduro. If you want a comparison between the NX500, the Himalayan 450 and the CF Moto 450 MT, then you're going to have to subscribe so that you can see that video when I put it out, which I hope should be coming soonish. Anyway, once again, thanks everyone for watching. Remember to like, subscribe and share and all that stuff. It really helps me out. I'm very close to my 1,000 subs now, so yeah, any help with that would be amazing. And as always, God bless, and remember to ride fast and take chances. Biking with Campbell. Bye. Okay. We'll see you later. You can go now. Thanks for coming. See you all later. Come back again, you all here. Cheers.